Welcome to this explainer. Today, we're diving into the August 6, 2026 Terminal Intelligence Briefing. We're going to take what looks like a totally random, disconnected set of global events and pull them together into one cohesive story. It's really all about a world going through some massive structural shifts right under our noses. If you want to get a read on the hidden currents driving our future, you are in exactly the right place. Let's jump in. We've got a packed six-part agenda today. 1. The macro domino effect. 2. Hidden market leverage risks. 3. The AI hardware arms race. 4. AI integration and quantum leaps. 5. Cultural fringes and human interest. And finally, Section 6, our strategic intelligence takeaways.
All right, Section 1, the macro domino effect, from Hormuz to the Fed.
Let's look at how one single geopolitical move creates a massive sigh of relief for the whole economy. A draft U.S.-Iran agreement about overseeing Persian Gulf shipping just yanked international crude down, decisively below $80 a barrel. Basically, by pricing in uninterrupted shipping logistics, we totally dodged that dreaded $100-plus conflict premium spike. That is a huge foundational stabilizer for the global economy right there.
Now, when you combine that much cheaper energy with the latest labor market data, the picture gets really interesting. Private payrolls just cooled down to an actual 44,000, which is way below the 65,000 estimate. So what happens? Because inflation is easing on the back of falling oil prices, newly minted Fed Chair Kevin Warsh suddenly gets this critical breathing room. He actually has the space he needs to safely cut interest rates and provide real relief. On the surface, the top-level macro picture looks incredibly calm.
But moving to Section 2, hidden market leverage risks. Let's see what kind of stress is bubbling just under that calm surface and the market's plumbing.
The tech sector has literally been going through a brutal stress test. We saw unprecedented July drops in major, highly concentrated players. Western Digital dumped 14%. SanDisk was down 7%. That triggered a massive 10% loss for tech, media, and telecom equity hedge funds, a totally historic decline. Mechanically, this forced the big prime brokerages to just slash the money they lend out to hedge funds. So, the burden of this whole tech trade? It gets dumped right onto regular retail accounts and leveraged ETFs.
Which brings us to the big question. Where exactly is all this highly volatile retail money going to find leverage, now that traditional institutions are aggressively pulling back?
Well, we're seeing a stark contrast here. On one side, you have the fortress-like protection of regulated CME single-stock futures. You know, moderate leverage, set expiration dates, built on solid 1930s guardrails. But on the other side, the terrifying allure of unregulated offshore perpetual futures, or PERPs. We're talking infinite duration and up to 100x leverage. That creates this extreme vulnerability where just a 1% price move can trigger cascading liquidations. And get this, the Trump administration is actually signaling a favorable view toward bringing these high-leverage PERPs right into U.S. markets.
Speaking of structural market risks, hundreds of special-purpose pre-IPO funds for SpaceX are facing a massive systemic test today. Lockup periods are expiring, and it's forcing investors out of this cozy illusion of paper wealth, where online portals were showing these massive gains, straight into a very harsh reckoning. Late-stage management is suddenly claiming that the underlying shares were allegedly sold off years ago. It's a massive systemic test of trust. Okay, on to Section 3. The AI hardware arms race. We're transitioning from murky market plumbing straight to the high-stakes tech battlefield.
Google's CEO Sundar Pichai recently stated, "We have to continue to move fast and with clear purpose." They are aggressively scrambling because they're in a defensive posture trying to escape a third-place status behind OpenAI and Anthropic in the race for frontier AI models. They know it, and they're fighting back.
The sheer scale of the brain drain forcing Google's hand here is just staggering. A 15-year veteran, Jeff Dean, actually departed to found Discovery Loop, taking top talent with him. This sparked a huge structural reshuffle. Demis Hassabis is stepping back to a chairman and chief scientist role, while Corey Kavakukuloglu gets promoted to senior vice president, basically just to try and stop the bleeding.
But honestly, the real blockbuster story of this explainer is over in hardware. AMD is willing to leverage a jaw-dropping $192 billion in potential equity transfers to pull off a total market coup. It's classic David versus Goliath. Challenger AMD is going straight for the entrenched monopoly, NVIDIA. Now, NVIDIA uses this circular financing model. They take equity stakes directly in their own hardware customers.
But AMD, they're using an incredibly aggressive warrant strategy. They are essentially issuing options for up to 160 million new shares to finance the infrastructure buildouts for giants like Meta and OpenAI. They're literally providing them with 14 gigawatts of power in a direct $192 billion attack. It's wild.
Moving to Section 4, AI integration and quantum leaps. While the tech giants fight over hardware, let's look at how AI is causing immediate paradigm leaps on the ground.
Vanguard Economic Analysis has this brilliant historical analogy for a question everyone's asking: why haven't we seen mass white-collar layoffs yet? Basically, AI right now is functioning like the ATM did in the 1980s. It's just augmenting productivity and automating specific tasks, but leaving the broader structure of work intact. We're still in the augmentation phase, folks. We haven't hit the direct replacement phase that we saw later with mobile banking in the 2010s.
You can see this augmentation phase actively transforming healthcare as we speak. Patients are completely bypassing traditional search engines. They're grabbing their complex lab results and feeding them directly into frontier AI chatbots. This is generating over 300 million weekly queries. It's forcing doctors into a brand new paradigm where they have to contend with highly informed patients armed with AI-generated diagnostic interpretations.
Meanwhile, quantum computing is entering a hyper-aggressive commercialization phase. Look at IonQ. They have massive operating losses against their revenue growth, but you know what? Near-term profitability is completely irrelevant in this landscape. Valuations are driven purely by technical milestones. A perfect example is IonQ's massive $1.8 billion acquisition of Skywater Technology, moving to bring semiconductor foundries entirely in-house to consolidate their supply chain.
Section 5. Cultural Fringes and Human Interest. Let's take a quick detour to observe how human culture is bizarrely, and sometimes hilariously, reacting to all this intense tech saturation. There is a fascinating societal friction pushing back against permanent connectivity. We're seeing a former politician finding a forced yet reflective digital detox without his phone in federal prison. We're seeing a Scottish seaside town quietly cheering on an analog vigilante who's systematically disabling newly installed digital parking meters with super glue and foam. And we're even seeing it in our clothes, as hybrid work permanently casualizes professional dress codes. We humans are definitely finding some weird ways to adapt to the digital machine. Finally, Section 6, Strategic Intelligence Takeaways. Let's pull all these threads together and deliver the final synthesis you need to remember.
One major immediate horizon you need to watch is Berkshire Hathaway's pending Q2 earnings. Wall Street is expecting a colossal leap from Q1's actuals of $235 million all the way up to an estimated $5 to $11 billion. And what's driving this? It's notably secured by a highly strategic $10 billion purchase of Alphabet stock snatched up below $350 a share. The smart money is making monumental concentrated bets.
So our final synthesis shows a world balancing on three distinct pillars. First, you've got the macro put, geopolitical stabilization in the Middle East, cooling oil, which gives the Fed room to stabilize rates. Second, a high-stakes hardware gamble. As Google bleeds talent, AMD leverages up to $192 billion to attack NVIDIA's moat. And third, dangerous leverage in the system. Unregulated 100x offshore platforms are absorbing hedge fund volatility, leaving the market dangerously reliant on retail money. Which leaves us with this final provocative thought. In a world where surface-level geopolitical calm masks unprecedented financial engineering and high-stakes tech warfare underneath, as unregulated 100x leverage collides with trillion-dollar tech gambles, are we actually funding the future of human productivity, or are we simply engineering a massive new house of cards built on structural quicksand? Thanks for joining this explainer, and keep questioning the framework.